The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Everybody, and welcome to the Happiness Jungle TV show with yours truly, Lyn-Dee Eldridge, and I am in-house in Nashua, New Hampshire, and I am so happy to be here with my guys in the back, Dick and Dan, and I am now bringing on a special guest that I met probably about a year and a half ago, and she is from South Florida. When you hear who this woman is, you are going to want to sit up on your chair and really dive into the next 27 minutes and pay close attention. This is a woman that I met about a year and a half ago, and it was at a Happiness Club event in Palm Beach. She was the featured keynote speaker. Minx absolutely touched my heart when I was looking at the collection of books that she has authored in. Blue Mountain, if you don't know who Blue Mountain is, I absolutely encourage you to Google them. Blue Mountain is a publishing house that absolutely inspired me when I needed the most inspiration in my life. Come to find out that now I meet an author of Blue Mountain. So right away, she was contagious to me. And then after I heard her speak and share with us the authenticness about growing and the authenticness about living a happier life, she's a life coach and she's a business coach. But now I am so blessed and so honored to say that she is now one of my friends. I'd like for you all to sit up in your chairs and get ready for the next 27 minutes to be inspiring, and help me welcome Miss Minx Boren from South Florida. Hey, Minx.
Hey, that's a great introduction. Thank you.
Well, you can pay me later.
Okay, and I remember meeting you, and you're coming up with all this bubbly enthusiasm, and we have got to know each other. You were right.
Yeah. See, like-minded, contagious people that have the same mind frame, we always manage to show up. And I'm so glad that I was able to show up the night that you were speaking at the Happiness Club. So I want to really dig into you, because before we know it, this 27 minutes is going to be gone like that. And we've got too much goodness for the world to know. Who is Minx? When did all of this start for you, where you decided to become an author and an inspiring author? And how did you figure out the topics to choose?
Oh, that's a question. That goes way back. I started keeping a journal when I was 5 years old. I still have all my journals from way back then. And I continued to discover myself on the page for many, many years. And I wrote, and then I would question. I wouldn't look at them for a year, and then I'd go back and I'd look at them again. And over time, there was this body of work, mostly poetry. So the first thing I ever published was a book of poetry. And I did that because I was training to be a life coach, and I was with a group of women on a telebridge call. And something moved me to read some poetry there. And then afterwards they said, "Oh my God, that's wonderful. Where's the book?" And I said, "There's no book. There's a shoebox, and it's stuffed full with poems." And they said, "You publish, we'll buy it." And that's how I published my first book. I had a dear friend in California, Patty Burris, who is an author, an artist. And I said, "Patty, make me a cover." And she did. And I published a book called Soul Notes, then Soul Notes 2. Those were both poetry books. Then, what was the next one? Feeling My Way, 99 Poetic Journeys, and then one called Ripe, which was all kind of sexual, sensual poetry after I turned 50, because I wanted the world to know that I hadn't dried up and given up. And then I was reading my poetry, at an event in New York, and a young man comes up to me and says, "My mother would love your poetry." And I thought, what an odd thing for a young man to say. Now, he wasn't 12, but everybody looks 12 to me these days, the older I get. So I gave him my book, and he gave it to his mother, and his mother is Susan Polish Schultz, who's the founder of Blue Mountain, and she called me and she said, "My son is right. I love your poetry. Come write for us."
Wow.
And he did. And the first book that they published was Healing is a Journey. And the second book was Friendship is a Journey. Isn't that amazing how miracles happen? And there's a backstory to that, which makes it even more wonderful, because I had written a poem one morning. I'm sitting out in back of my home. It's very, very early, which is when I generally write. And this amazing poem shows up, and half the time I think they've just come through me, that they're being channeled somehow.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked up at the heavens and said, "Okay, God, this is as good as I can write. And I am not self-publishing a fifth book. So if you want this out in the world, please show me." And then I went to New York, and I was actually at a synagogue when I did that reading, because I knew the rabbi. And that's when this young man said, "My mother would love your work."
Wow.
So, you know, if you ask, if you're really clear, if you're open to the universe, if you're ready, it's amazing how things happen. Haven't you found that in your life?
100%. And that's why you and I are such kindred-minded. And I love what you said. And you've been passionate about this since 5 years old. And as you were getting older, that's when everything started blossoming. Wow, I have goosebumps with your story, because there are so many people that are so lost in the world. They don't know what their passion is, when honestly, I know for a fact, because I live in my own shell, that your passion has been with you ever since day one. You just got it so confused with so much clutter that's in your life, that is one of the things that you do, is you help people declutter their mind to allow the universe to speak to them, because we keep asking for it. I love that. That was beautifully shared.
Thank you. So one of the things I know as a coach, it's interesting. My background is I taught healthy cooking for many years in New York. I was passionate about that. Still am very passionate about healthy food, healthy packaging, healthy living. I'm doing work for Elders Action Network now and getting involved in that. But what it led to is I was teaching people how to be in their kitchen as if it's sacred space, how to clean it up, clear it out, find what really nourishes them. So I moved down to Florida, and I thought I'd keep on teaching cooking. And then I met someone, and because I had been involved in a women's group in New York, she and I together began to run women's groups down here. And we did that for 10 years and wrote about 1,000 pages of a book called Vision Heart. So it was 10 workbooks about how to tap into your values and live from that place. And then from that, someone said, "What you're doing is called coaching. It's time you went back and got credentialed as a coach." And that was 20 years ago.
You didn't even know what you were doing.
Right. I didn't know what it was called.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's how I got into coaching. And I went through Coach U and then got credentialed, and then eventually became a Master Certified Coach and got very involved in that whole world. But the thing about it is it's no different. The first thing you learn as a coach, if you're going to coach someone, is you get them to clean out a drawer or a closet. If you want to clean up your life, just clean out something. Make some space for something new. Make space in your head by journaling and dumping out all the stuff you don't need to have hanging up there. Make space in a closet and give things away and start to share and get connected. Make space with your thoughts by sharing them out in the world. Put them in a book and put them out there.
I love that. You know, one of the things, because I too, I have a client and she had so many things. And I told her, I says, you got to declutter. There's no way that you could keep walking into here and expect change, because change has to happen all around you. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's funny that you said that. I told him, and I says, there's a giving way that you could declutter, that you could still appreciate the things that you have, keep seeing the things that you have, and to be able to give to somebody that loves what you have. She says, well, what do you mean? And I said, it's very simple. For instance, these flowers. If my niece always walked into my home and said, man, I love those flowers every time, and I'm sharing with you that it's time to declutter, how about giving this to your niece? And every time you go to your niece's home, you're going to see it, and it's being reappreciated. She absolutely loved that, and it really helped her declutter.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I love what you're saying about that. And you're like an angel. That's how I look at you. It's true, Minx. It's really true. I look at you in an angel because of wherever you are, whatever presence that you are supposed to be not only sharing but receiving, you're so in tune to it. You just go, I didn't know that's what it was called.
That's it. Okay, I'll do that.
I'll do that. I'll do that, right? So share with me more about what is your best, what client has helped you change your life? We don't want their names or anything, but you know how we have certain clients that we work with, certain groups, and that we end up growing because of this person as they're growing? Does that happen to you?
I think more than anything else, I began in New York many years ago. I belonged to something called the Bliss Group, which was women showing up as the source of bliss, claiming that, taking that on. And it was an extraordinary group of women, and we stayed together and we worked together and played together for a number of years, actually till I moved to Florida. Someone else moved to some tropical island. We all moved away. We all kind of grew to some next level and moved away. So I have always been inspired by the power of women coming together and even co-ed conversations. I'm trained in something called the Art of Convening, which is a way of bringing people into a meaningful dialogue that is honest and open and sacred. And that's one of the things I did along the way. So the groups that I have been part of, for example, after I did the basic training at Coach U, then I went on to study Art of Convening with Craig and Patricia Neal, and became part of the first group that ever got certified to lead those groups. And we became so connected and involved that it's 15 years later, and we still meet by phone once a month for an hour and a half on some choice of topic, whoever's convening that conversation decides. 15 years. And that's not the only group that I have like that. So I'm very much relationship oriented. When I did the work with Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, who first came to coaches when he wanted to bring this whole concept of positive psychology out into the world, there were 5 aspects of what he calls a fulfilling life. And one of them is relationships, that it's so at the core of joy. As a matter of fact, I have a quote of his right here. Let's see. Other people are the best antidote to the downs of life and the single most reliable up. So that's when we come together. So I have always learned as much from any client or anyone in a group with me as they have learned from me. And I will say when I walk into a room, the wisdom is here. It's not just in me. It's in every one of you. And the more you're willing to participate in this, the better and richer our conversation will be. And it's always magical. So that's where I get inspired more than anything else.
Yeah, I like that. And I love how you talk about relationships. I love the title, Healing is a Journey, Friendship is a Journey, Life is a Journey. And I just absolutely, like I said, throughout this interview, I am getting goosebumps. So this is so powerful that there are so many people out there in the world that need to hear your message. And I'm excited about that. There are people that are having challenges in relationships. So let's talk about that for a second. What do you see as the most difficult thing in relationships today?
That people don't listen. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Listening is a skill. As a matter of fact, listening is probably the first big skill you learn as a coach. I have a sign that sits on my desk that says, "Why are you talking?" If I'm in a good coach conversation and I do a really good question, I should be able to shut up for about 20 minutes and let someone find their way through that to some level of awareness or even wisdom. So I think that in most conversations, people don't sit down and truly practice the art of listening, of being silent, of going into sacred space, allowing someone to say whatever they need to say without interruptions, without yeah buts or yes ands or oh, and that happened to me, and then they're off on their tangent and their story. And about 10 minutes later, come back and what about you? Who are you? Who am I talking to? So listening.
That's what about mirroring?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes it can be wonderful, and sometimes it can feel very forced and annoying, off-putting. It depends. It depends on how best when it is presented in such a way when you actually say what you're going to do. Let me mirror what you said or what I heard, and let me say that back to you so that it doesn't feel forced or contrived. Real conversations are real conversations. Sometimes I just sit there, hand on heart. What's the truest way I can be? What can I say, do, or not say right now that would be most real? And then come from my heart.
I love that. Two people are sitting side by side, they're having a conversation, and they're learning the skill of listening. Do you recommend that maybe they have a paper and a pencil, so as the person is talking, they could take a little bit of like notes, so it would be something
Great idea.
that they want to talk about? Because hey, I know at 58, there are times when I'm having a conversation, and I'm only kidding about I am 58, but you know, sometimes we forget there's so much that we're trying to filter in. So good idea.
So what I will, even when I do that, I will have a pad in front of me,
Yeah.
and I will say, I'm not distracted. I'm writing because I don't want to interrupt you and I don't want to lose something valuable that you're saying. So then I'll just scribble on the side until afterwards, until it's time.
Yeah, I like that. Open communication. Let the other person know what you're doing so they don't feel like, oh, there she goes or there he goes.
Right.
That's great advice. That's awesome. Listening, communicating, and just stifle. Digest.
And then another thing is, so let's shift it and go to communicating with ourselves. So back to my whole idea of journaling. The other morning, I was doing some work with someone, and I always recommend gratitude journals, or very often recommend them, or some way of speaking your gratitude. And she said to me, I'm so bored writing down the gratitude, so because I'm always grateful for the same thing. So that's where, and I'm happy to be able to say this because I'm sure there are people out there who are doing their gratitude journals. It needs to be very specific and in the moment. So right now, I'm always grateful that I'm a coach because it's like my perfect career found me. And I'm always grateful that I learned how to be a speaker because that's kind of what was required if I was going to get things out there. And at this moment, I am so grateful that those two skills were what attracted you to invite me onto this show so that we could have this awesome conversation. Mm-hmm. So in my journal tonight, that's what I write. Not just that I'm grateful for that I had an opportunity, but really the fullness of the moment. So sometimes I kid around when I'm doing the example and I say, I'm grateful to my husband. Well, I'm grateful to my husband every day. And today I'm grateful to him because he actually called me on the way home and said, do you need anything from the grocery store that I can bring and save you the trip? Thank you very much. It can be as simple as that. Or it can be that he gave me a foot massage, which would be even better. Yeah.
I'm like,
But
oh.
that's the point. The
Yes.
point is to be really specific of what you're grateful for, because it taps you into your own heart, so you know yourself and what brings you to the place of gratitude, which is also bringing you to the place of grace, and what the world is bringing your way. So it makes you very alive and aware in a very different way. So it's the best way to have a relationship with yourself.
I like that. I like that a lot. There are some people out in the world that they think that everything, to show love, you have to have money. You have to buy love. Let's touch on that for a second, can we? Because
Sure. One of the best things I ever heard about that is express love in a way that the person receiving it can experience it as love. And I'll give you a perfect example. I don't love to receive fresh flowers. Now, that may seem odd, but they die. I love orchids. I have an entire backyard filled with orchids. So if you want to send me love, send me an orchid, something that I can keep alive and nurture and bring back every year. And that's not the same. Some people love to get fresh flowers. But the point is, you need to do what someone else appreciates. So sometimes, for some people, I just had a conversation with my husband the other day, because I'm so involved in this whole Elders Action Network and the whole concept of what's going on the planet and how can we make a difference. And I said, what I need from you in terms of love right now is I need to be able to give you no more than 5 pages a day, but something that I'm passionate about that you will read so that we can talk about it, not from the viewpoint of your other sources of information, but from where I'm coming from. And so that's opened up another dialogue. And he said, well, just tell me about what you read. No, that's not the same. I need you to read it because I'm not articulate or savvy enough in some of these things. I'm just learning. So I need you to do that so that we can have a conversation. And he agreed. So sometimes it's asking for, how do you need to be loved?
I like that. And
Sometimes
then
it's say you need
and listen, back to listening. Listen to the
Right.
answer so you can respond to it.
Right. So sometimes it's, I need a quiet 5 minutes
Yeah.
before. My mother, there's a very funny story so my mother always said, never go to bed angry, right? That good old wisdom. And so one night I was really upset, and I get into bed and I don't want to talk about, I don't want to do anything. And Mel comes in and he taps my shoulder and he does one of these, your mother said, don't go to bed angry. And he just cracked me up. I got up and we talked until we figured it out and kind of got to the other side of what I was upset about.
That's
that's
fantastic. How long are you married?
50 years now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
50 years. That is just beautiful.
So, yeah. And we just went away on a very special long vacation. And I wrote him a poem afterwards. I write a poem every day. That's every day of my life. I get up and I write a poem. They don't have to be good. They just have to be on the paper. And I wrote one just about that we travel well together. So I said, anytime it gets a little tense around the house, let's just go on a trip. Let's just pick up and go somewhere because we really travel so well together.
I love that. That's fantastic. So you write a poem a day. Are you going to publish these poems?
I don't know yet. I've published, I think first of all, I've been published in lots of anthologies.
Yeah.
Then there are the books with Blue Mountain. Then there are the ones that I published earlier. And then there are a whole lot of books for women. All of this is on my website so people can go and look. I needed to free myself to not write from the vantage point of being published so that I could get back to saying whatever I wanted to say. It's very constricting when you're writing for a book.
Yes.
What you can say, what you have to edit, what are people going to think if I say it this way? So I decided as of January 1st, I was reading On the Brink of Everything by Parker Palmer. And he said, you have to give up being published and go back to your passion for writing. And I did that. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have 93 poems as of today, and I'll go back and revisit them at some point and decide, what do I want to do? But right now I want to write because that's my relationship with myself. What's going on inside?
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, I remember in 2009, that was the year that my first book was published. And as my editor was reading it, she came back to me, she says, Lyn-Dee, she says, remember one thing, once it's published, it's in print forever. So you want to go back and you want to see, is there anything else that you want to pull from the book? And I said to her, wow, and it was so profound. So thank you for sharing that. And that's brilliant. Absolutely. Write as if you weren't going to publish it, because then everything is there.
Right.
You're
you can
amazing.
always edit. You can always change it afterwards.
Right.
But the point is, you need to start by tapping into what's true and what's real and what's authentic for me. It's amazing what shows up on the page. I'm actually going to be teaching a course at Lifelong Learning here this fall.
Wow.
And it's on discovering yourself on the page.
That's fantastic. So we are coming to a close. You don't write what you know. Can you believe it? We're coming to a close.
Oh, yeah.
I know. We started off with bloopers and now we're coming off to a close.
Big bloopers.
You know, I'm really looking forward to doing more with you, Minx. You have absolutely contagiously affected my heart and my soul. I appreciate you so, so much. I'm glad that we met. Last few words of encouragement to our audience, and let them know, how else can they get a hold of you, Minx? We got a minute to go.
Well, I can see that CoachMinx.com is on the bottom of the screen. It's Minx at CoachMinx.com, or visit my website. I publish a balance point every other week, so it's a fun newsletter that always has poetry and always has a coaching thought and always has something about someone doing something courageous and brave in the world, so people will love it. So please do that. And if I had to give one message to everybody, it would be, knowing isn't doing. If there's something that you heard today that sparked your heart, then just do it. Really. It lives in the doing, and we all know lots and lots of stuff. But knowing isn't doing.
Oh, wow. Healing is a journey. Friendship is a journey. I never said life was easy, but I did say you can be happier. Hold your own flashlight, because you were born to shine. Thank you so much, Minx, for being on the Happiness Jungle TV show. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back in South Florida.
Thank you.
You're an angel. Thank you so, so much.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.